We all think we know how reality TV contracts work. We watch the million-dollar weddings, the drama, and the tears, thinking that millions of people are witnessing the unfolding of actual life. However, what would happen if the largest wedding in reality TV history turned out to be a hoax? Fans considered Yandy Smith and Mendeecees Harris to be the epitome of ride or die for 10 years. I am DC and myself. My hometown is Harlem. Sending assignments. You guys used to live on the streets, I guess. I got things together. I entered the music business, and my girlfriend is Yandy. Have you seen all those presents? How will we transport those items home? Your dad. What did you intend to accomplish this evening? Vital and I are attending Joel's all-white party. It's your baby shower night. We witnessed Yandy support her husband during a significant federal indictment, keep the peace during his 4-year prison term, and welcome him back home to start an empire. They had a hip-hop fairy tale and the ultimate love. The heartfelt vows, the white attire, and the hyphenated last name. Mendeecees, however, sat in a radio studio on Christmas Eve, stared into the microphone, and dropped a bombshell that totally destroyed a 20-year illusion. They never got married legally. Not in 2020, when he returned from federal prison, nor in 2015, when millions witnessed them exchange vows on national television. 2 broadcast ceremonies, 20 years, and no marriage license signatures. The internet turned into a frenzy right away. Was it all merely a stunt for TV ratings? Or did Yandy Smith, a bright businessman with a Howard education, have a more darker, more premeditated purpose for never signing the document? We witnessed an entire wedding. We were under the impression that they were married, but it turns out that this was really a performance. No. We did want to record their actual wedding, so it wasn't for the show, right? And what transpired after the fact, to be honest, I didn't even learn about it until Yandy and I started talking about it. What the hell was that? I exclaimed. She responded, well, I was advised by my legal, which is a true statement. In actuality, Mendeecees believed his wife was shielding them from the legal system, but in reality, she was creating an escape plan. Mendeecees was forced to crash out in front of the cameras as part of an exit strategy that included clandestine trips to London, emotional confessions of infidelity on camera, and a wild betrayal involving a close friend. Because there was a chilly 20-year business partnership hidden underneath the gorgeous couple that everyone wanted to be. And there was complete chaos as the illusion eventually crumbled. We must go all the way back to 2008 to fully comprehend how a 20-year empire fell apart in a single radio appearance. Before the dazzling lights of VH1, the red carpets, and the multi-million-dollar branding deals, Yandy Smith and Mendeecees Harris were just 2 ambitious, hungry hustlers attempting to escape the harsh realities of Harlem's streets. Managing local talent and negotiating a milieu where survival required always keeping your cards close to your chest, Mendeecees was a street figure attempting to make a career change in the music industry. However, Yandy wasn't just another attractive newcomer to the hip-hop industry. She had a keen business sense and graduated from Howard University. A lady who was familiar with the cold, hard mechanics of contracts, percentages, and financial obligations, and who had previously managed large-scale artists. They clicked right away when they first met. They appeared to be the next big thing in New York because they were young, ambitious, and attractive. Executives cast them on Love and Hip Hop New York in 2011 after observing their genuine, unvarnished interaction. Their romance became public property almost immediately. Millions saw them juggle the turbulent energy of the music industry with love and family. However, the ground beneath them opened up just as they were solidifying their position as reality TV royalty. The federal government knocked in 2013. A significant federal indictment was brought against Mendeecees. Conspiracy to deliver heavy illicit substances is the charge. The Department of Justice filed a case with a mandatory minimum sentence that could imprison him for more than 10 years. All of a sudden, the opulent lifestyle, lavish birthday celebrations, and TV celebrity were eclipsed by the awful reality. It was billed as the season's biggest event. The theme was pure luxury, white decor everywhere, tears flowing freely, passionate vows uttered in front of millions of spectators at home. We watched Yandy come down the aisle, look into Mendeecees' eyes, and swore to hold him down through whatever storm was coming. Her public name was formally changed to Yandy Smith Harris. She was seen by the world as the ultimate ride-or-die lady, a devoted companion who committed her life to a man who was on the verge of complete collapse. However, a whole different story was being written behind the scenes, far from the camera operators and the sobbing admirers. You see, food contracts, floral arrangements, and production schedules are all necessary for a broadcast wedding. However, a little, modest document issued by the city court, signed by both spouses, and a legal witness are necessary for a marriage to be deemed lawful. And that piece of paper vanished as the newlyweds drove away from their extravagant reception. Fans conjectured for years that the wedding was a totally staged event intended just to increase TV viewership and earn a hefty salary from VH1. However, there was more to the missing signature than just a cheap reality TV ploy. It was a well-thought-out, crucial financial chess move. Mendeecees attempted to change the story when the truth finally came out on the radio on Christmas Eve. He acknowledged to the presenters that there was no marriage license, but he said that Yandy was the one who came up with the concept. He claims that Yandy sat him down and gave him some advice because he was facing a huge federal case that included asset seizures, court-ordered restitution, and hefty financial fines. "Let's not sign the legal papers right now. We need to protect what we're building from the courts," she allegedly said to him. Mendeecees listened, stared at his lovely girlfriend, understood her explanation, and sincerely thought his woman was safeguarding their future together, shielding their family from the federal government's long arm. But drama writers and industry insiders quickly began looking at the timeline side by side, and they saw a completely different picture. Yandy wasn't trying to protect them. She was a highly trained business manager who knew exactly how reality TV divorces looked. More significantly, she was aware of what happens to a woman's hard-earned bank account when her boyfriend is implicated in a federal criminal prosecution. She was defending her assets, businesses, and growing media brand against him rather than his assets from the government. For the next 4 years, as Mendeecees sat in a chilly federal prison cell, counting down the days, he found solace in the thought of the woman who wore his ring on national television. He had no idea that back in New York, the empire she was building had only one name on the deeds. Mendeecees was ready to turn himself in to the authorities, thinking he had a legally bound wife waiting at home to keep his seat warm, but in reality, he had a brilliant business partner who had successfully isolated her. Mendeecees felt like a king returning to his kingdom when he finally left that federal prison cell in 2020, ready to reclaim his throne as the head of the household. However, he was walking right into a trap that had been set 10 years earlier, one that was about to explode with a scandalous trip across the Atlantic Ocean. The media hailed Yandy as the epitome of fidelity. He had served his time, paid his obligation to society, and had a stunning, fiercely devoted woman waiting for him at the gates. In order to honor her and strengthen their relationship, they chose to repeat the entire process. To commemorate his release, they had a second private ceremony. The cameras caught the love, the tears, and the reaffirmed promises once more, but like the spectacular event in 2015, this second ceremony was a ghost. The marriage certificate was blank when the music ended and the guests departed. There were no signatures, no court documents, and no legally binding connections. Mendeecees apparently believed that they were still merely defending themselves against the financial fallout from his previous legal disputes. He genuinely thought they were an indestructible team, but by late 2024, the burdensome reality of leading a double life on TV started to shatter the foundation, and the couple quietly broke up without ever telling the media. The first significant breakup didn't result from a glitzy red carpet event or a high-profile interview. Instead, it happened in 2025, the year the Universe 2 decided to pull back the curtain and let every single secret spill out into the light. They were living apart, managing their own affairs, but maintaining a united front for the public and their ongoing media contracts. It all began on Instagram in May 2025, thanks to Yandy's longtime close friend and former. In a string of explosive, unfiltered posts, Bryant publicly accused Yandy of brutally cheating on Mendeecees, leaving the internet completely stunned. Bryant said that Yandy had taken him on an extravagant vacation to London to celebrate his birthday, but he didn't simply make a general accusation, he produced names, receipts, and specific locations. Bryant stated that the birthday trip was nothing more than a complex, well-planned cover story, and that Yandy had been hiding away in London with her secret side guy all along, despite the fact that it appeared to be a kind gesture from a wealthy celebrity friend. The man in question was a handsome, high-profile fitness trainer named Michael Adus. Bryant didn't hold anything back, painting a vivid, chaotic picture of what went down behind the closed doors of their luxury London hotel. On his live streams and posts, Bryant stated, "We went to London so you can fiff your side piece. The wall separated my bed and your bed," he remarked, claiming that the hotel's walls were so thin that he had to spend the entire night listening to Yandy and Michael together. "I am paying attention. I have to listen to you all night, so I can't even answer the phone with my own lover." The image of Yandy Smith, the epitome of a devoted ride-or-die wife, purportedly jogging around European hotels with a fitness trainer while her husband was back home in America, went viral on the internet. Bryant said that Yandy's alleged hypocrisy and chaotic personal life had left him utterly worn out. In order to keep her own hands clean and protect Mendeecees from learning the truth, he even said that Yandy let his own partner believe he was the one having an affair during the trip. Michael Aduse himself got onto his Instagram stories as the tension reached a fever pitch. Despite his attempts to minimize the seriousness of the issue, he ultimately confirmed the widely circulated rumor. He acknowledged that he and Yandy had had a physical interaction in London, but he immediately attempted to maintain his dignity by characterizing it as an isolated incident that shouldn't have been exaggerated. Although nothing is ever completely removed from the internet, Bryant ultimately removed the heartbreaking posts. Millions of admirers had already saved the proof, screen-taped the outbursts, and taken screenshots. Yandy remained largely silent for months as the rumors circulated. She was aware that she would eventually run out of time to avoid the cameras, though. A few months later, Yandy finally took the camera to talk about the storm during Season 12 of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. However, she made a shocking confession that stunned the fan community once more in place of a vehement denial. She looked at the journalist and acknowledged emotional infidelity when asked directly if she had ever left her relationship. "I've definitely had an emotional connection with someone outside of my husband, and we had to deal with it," she said. In an effort to save what was left of her reputation, she vehemently denied that anything violent had happened. However, the internet didn't believe it. When fans compared Bryant Jameson's stunning London revenues with her public confession, the numbers simply didn't make up. Everyone's primary concern switched from whether or not she cheated to something far more profound. Why was Yandy actively leading a totally different single life on the side while battling so hard to preserve the appearance of a flawless marriage and shield Mendeecees' ego? How can a lady offer a guy a lavishly broadcast wedding, lock him down for 4 arduous years of a federal prison sentence, and still have a covert London escape plan tucked away in her back pocket? This London affair, according to the admirers, was the height of the drama. They were unaware that a more powerful and ominous storm was developing nearby. Because a few months later, a well-known media blogger was going to reveal a name that would completely upend Mendeecees' life, and it concerned a woman who was very close to her. What followed was a complete nuclear meltdown, if the London affair was a crack in the illusion. By the end of 2025, rumors about Yandy and Mendeecees' quiet split were already circulating on the internet. However, the public continued to perceive Mendes as the irate and distraught husband who sat at home while his wife looked at her possibilities on the other side of the Atlantic. On December 2, 2025, that story was totally destroyed. 3 Funky Denva, a well-known media blogger, launched a live stream, took a seat, and unleashed a radioactive bombshell that ignited the urban entertainment industry. He didn't only allude to adultery. He gave the name of Tamar Braxton, a great R&B performer who at the time was closely collaborating with Mendeecees. Mendeecees was the main romantic character in Tamar Braxton's eagerly awaited short film and musical project, Heartbreak Retrograde, earlier that year. Fans saw it as a smart commercial decision at the time. Working together on a creative work about sorrow and healing are two prominent reality TV veterans. However, Funky Denva asserted that art was closely mimicking a scandalous reality. Funky Denva talked about a crazy night out that made him feel uneasy while staring straight into the camera during his live stream. He said he was in a fancy Ruth's Chris steakhouse with Tamar and Mendeecees, and what he saw under the table was anything but professional. "You tell me, Tamar, if it's inappropriate or appropriate when we're sitting at Ruth's Chris and he's rubbing between your thighs," he said, but he didn't end there. He said that the group escalated in front of him after leaving the restaurant in an Uber. He claimed, "I got in my damn car and went home 'cause you were sitting on his lap in that goddamn Uber and y'all was kissing. Okay. And I was really uneasy about it." Finish the quote. When Funky Dinah brought up an odd incident with Tamar's appearance, implying a chaotic private encounter that went completely crazy behind closed doors, the stream reached a fever pitch. The internet went completely crazy within a day after he said, "Now, if anybody knows who happened and what happened to your damn teeth, it's Mendeecees and his best friend 'cause they were the ones who went upstairs with you. I don't know whether they were hit from the back and ran your head through the headboard or what." Tamar Braxton herself took to Instagram to make a vehement formal denial because to the intense criticism. In a harsh statement, she called the entire narrative a deliberate fabrication. Gossip soon revealed that she was actively threatening to file a slander lawsuit. However, a few days later, Tamar entirely removed her denial post in an odd action that only increased public suspicion. Funky Denva doubled hard on his assertions after witnessing her back down and refused to take back a single word from his narrative. He insisted he was in that vehicle. He was not going to allow anyone to deceive him into keeping quiet since he saw what he saw. This timeline is important because it depicts a man who is totally sinking under the weight of his crumbling secrets. On December 2, 2025, Funky Geneva dropped this catastrophic bomb. A clearly rattled Mendeecees sat down in the Street's 94 studios on Christmas Eve, exactly 23 days later. 5 for his notorious conversation with Young on the morning show. He was aware that the walls were getting closer. He was aware that the public was aware of Tamar Braxton's breakup, the trip to London, and the current radioactive rumors. So Mendeecees chose to explode his own life on live before anyone else could do it for him. He confessed to the world that he and Yandy were fully finished. 20 years of history were essentially thrown into the trash when he revealed the ultimate truth, that they were never officially married. He attempted to present it as a shared financial choice from the past. However, the moment was quite different. This wasn't a calm, measured business announcement. This was a preemptive move by a man whose secret life had recently come to light. Yandy Smith broke her silence on December 26, the very next day. However, she refrained from making a messy live stream or going on an angry tirade. Rather, she opted for icy, deliberate quiet, posting a slew of profoundly mysterious, heartbreaking messages on her Instagram account. "Now I finally understand the difference between people who love me, people who love to be around me, and people who love what I can do for them," she wrote. She added a terrifying line in a follow-up post. "I heard my business from people I didn't tell. You're quieter now." It was a masterclass in public relations. Yandy told her audience that she had been processing his betrayal in complete silence while he was out here making a mockery of their life on the radio, all without mentioning Mendeecees, Tamar Braxton, or the fake marriage. To the world, it looked like the final decisive nail in the coffin of a 20-year empire. The business relationship was split, the love was gone, and the sham marriage was exposed. But as the calendar flipped into 2026, the cameras for Love and Hip Hop Atlanta Season 13 began to roll. When Love and Hip Hop Atlanta Season 13 debuted in April 2026, the smoke from the radio explosion in December 2025 had barely cleared. What they caught was a man who realized he had just thrown away the greatest asset he had ever owned and was about